Okay, so hi. Today we're going to find out how we can make a multiplication table in Excel. Well, it's in Google Sheets, but the same principles would apply in any spreadsheet. Okay, so let's see how fast I can do this to begin with, and then afterwards I'll explain how I did it. Okay, so I'm going to start a blank sheet. And I'm going to adjust the width of the columns, I think. I'm going to need the columns up as far as, well, let's see, maybe as far as G, I'm not really sure. And then, let's see, maybe have them half as wide as they are now. Right, and maybe I can zoom in a little bit so we can see that better. And then I'm going to list the numbers from 1 to 5 here. So I'm pressing 1 and then tab and then 2. And then, of course, it could be fast to just type them, but one way to fill in the remainder is to do it the way that I did there. And then I can do 1, enter 2, and then drag down in this manner to get the other numbers. And then here I can type equals $A2 times B $1. Okay, and then I can press, I was going to press Control Enter to autofill that. And then if I drag down and drag across, there I have my table. And I just made the font larger previously just so that we could see it more easily. Yeah. Okay, so there you go. That's how I could make the table. Okay, so let's do that again and go through it a little bit more slowly, just so that we can understand this carefully, because I think it's an important exercise that allows us to practice how to work with cell references. Okay, just zoom in a little bit here, and then just do what I did before here. Okay, if I wanted to, I could just continue and just, it would just continue the same pattern if I do that. Okay, so maybe I should have shown that a little bit more slowly. So basically, if you just highlight two cells and then you hover so you get this black cross and then drag, then it will just continue the pattern. And I can also do that here. And I can do that in that way. Okay, now if we want to do multiplication, then if I want to multiply this number by this one, okay, then I can do A2, and then I'm using asterisk for multiply. You can see the formula that I'm typing into the cell here. Note that with a formula, we always start with equals. So A2 multiplied by B1. Okay, so you see there I have A2 multiplied by B1. And now if I try dragging down to continue this pattern, then what do we get here? Well, maybe this was a bit of a surprise to you. So let's click on these cells to see what's happening. So here, in this cell, we're getting A2 times B1. In this one, we're getting A3 times B2. In this one, we're getting A4 times B3. And here, A5 times B4. And here, A6 times B5. Okay, and that's because the default when we use the so-called relative cell references, when we type in the cells in this way, then basically what it does is it uses the cells relative to the one that you're looking at. So here we're focused on this cell. At A2 is to the left and B1 is above it. So what it's saying is that into this cell, we're going to take the product of the number to the left and the number above. And then when we pasted that formula down, then it basically did the same for every cell, that for every cell, it's going to take the product of the number to the left and the number above. Okay, so for example, this 120 is the product of 5 and 24. Okay, now that was not what we wanted for our table. So let's delete these ones, and then let's go back to this formula. Okay. So one thing we can do is we can use this dollar sign. So on my PC keyboard, I'm pressing Alt, GR, and 4 to get a dollar sign. Okay. And what that does is it makes it a so-called absolute cell reference. So now the A here is being referenced in an absolute sense, whereas the 2, the B, and the 1 are still being referenced in a relative sense because they do not have a dollar sign in front of them. Okay, so what this means is that now if I hit enter, and now if I drag down to apply this formula to the whole column here, okay, then we see the same result as before. Okay, and that's because what are we saying? We're saying that if we go back to this cell, we're saying that we're locking down the A, so the A is an absolute reference, okay? And then it's saying that we're taking a cell from column A, and that is relative to this one, that it's on the same row. This is the cell B2, and then we have this number 2 here. So that means we're taking a number from column A that is in the same row as this one. Okay, and then from column B, this B1 is just relative to this, so that means that we're just taking a number from column A that is in the same row as this one, that was the $A2, and then multiplied by B1 means multiplied by the cell above this one. And then you see if we go to the next cell, you see now this we have this A3, this 2 changed to a 3 here, this 1 changed to a 2 here. Okay, so what are we doing now? It's still the same idea, that we lock down the A by using the dollar sign. So that means we always have row A, column A, and then we have a 3 now because we're taking the same row as this cell, okay? And then since this is relative, we're taking the cell above this one, okay? So you see we get the same outcome as before, okay? So you might be thinking that this has not made any difference, but if we try now applying this formula to the whole table by dragging across in this way, okay, you see now that for example, in this cell, okay, we still have the A locked down here, so we still have the $A2 here, but now we have a C, whereas we had a B in the previous cell. Okay, so what that means is that we're still now taking the number from column A that is in the same row as this cell. We're taking the product of that with the number that is above this one. So that means to get this one, we're taking 1 times 2. Whereas to get this one, we're taking 2 times 2. To get this one, we're getting, no, sorry, I'm getting this wrong here. It is basically, yeah, I'm getting it right. It's basically 3 times 4. It's basically the number from column A that is in the same row as the cell that we've highlighted, and then the product of that with the number that is in the cell above this one. So 3 times 4, 4 times 12, and so on. Or here, 4 times 24 is 96, and so on. Okay, so what we can do now is we can contrast that with what we had previously when we didn't have the dollar sign. So here I'm just hitting the delete key just to empty those cells. So now if I try this again without the dollar sign, okay, and we do the same as before, we see that for the first column, we get the same thing, but now when I paste across, now we get these, we get enormous numbers. Because what is this doing now? Well, now when we don't have any dollar signs, then, then everything, excuse me, everything is relative. So that means that for every cell, we're getting the number in that cell by taking the product from the cell to the left and the cell above. So here, this 576 is the product of 24 and 24. That is 24 times 24, and so on. Okay, and then you see here that, this 69120 is the product of 576 and 120. Okay. Now, so I hope that that was clear, the effect of that, that dollar sign in the formula. Okay, so let's go back. So previously we put the dollar sign there before the A. So let's try now doing it before the 2. Maybe I'll just give this a name, 555 table film, just so we have a file name there. Okay, so back to this. I'm going to put the dollar here, the dollar sign here before the 2 now. Okay, right. So you see that. So let's see now, and if you feel that you're getting the hang of this, you should pause the video and check that that you can predict what's going to happen here. So let's see what happens when we drag down. Okay, so now we're just getting 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Okay, so what is it saying here? It's saying that if we focus on this cell, it's saying that we're taking the number from the column that is to the left of the current cell. Okay, and since all these numbers are in the B column, then that means that we'll be taking a number from column A every time. Okay, and we are locking down now row 2. Okay, so we're saying that we're going to take this number from row 2 each time. So that means that since it's going to be column A every time and row 2 every time, that means that that first number is going to be 1 in every case. Okay, so you see there that as we go down, then this $2 doesn't change. It's the same for every cell. So for every cell, we're taking this number from cell A2, and then we're multiplying that by the number that is above the current cell, because the B1 is written just with relative references, yeah, as before. So that means we're taking this 1 times the number that's above this cell, okay, which is 1. So we get 1 times 1 is 1. And then here, we're taking this 1 times this 1. And here, we're taking this 1 times this 1. And here, we're taking this 1 times this 1. And here, we're taking this 1 times this 1. So we just get 1s there. Let's see what happens when we paste this across now. Okay, so we see that we're getting some big numbers again here, and that's because we're not locking down the A column now. We're just taking, for each number, we're taking the column to the left of the previous one and locking down row 2 here with the absolute reference. So that means that, for example, for this number, it means that we're taking a number from the column to the left of this one and from row 2. So that means we're taking the number from cell C2, and we're multiplying it by the number that in the cell above this one. So it means 2 times 12 is 24. And for example, for this cell, 2 times 48 is 96. Okay. And similarly here, 6 times 24 is 144. And here, 6 times 144 is 864. And here, 6 times 864 is 5184, and so on. Okay. So I hope you saw the difference there. Now, if we just continue now, and instead of having the dollar here, let's have the dollar before the B. Okay, that means that the B will now be referenced in an absolute sense. Okay, whereas the A, the 2, and the 1 will be referenced in a relative sense. So what does that mean? It means that we are taking the cell to the left of this one, okay, and the number there, and then we're multiplying it by the number that is in column B and that is in row 1, or that is in the row above this one, okay? So that means that we're going to be taking, to get this number, it's this times this, okay? And then it means that, well, let's see when we paste down here, okay? So for example, to get this number, it's the number to the left, and then the number that is in column B that is above this one, okay? Right? That is in the row above this one, okay? Now, if we now paste this across here, right, then let's try to explain what we have here. So, for example, where does this number come from? Okay, this is the number from that is to the left of this cell, and then multiplied by the number from column B that is in the row above. So it means this times this equals this. Okay. If we go here, now we're doing this times this equals this. Yeah. And here we're doing the, again, the cell to the left of this one, and then multiplied by the number that is in column B and in the row above. So this times this. Okay. So I hope this is making some sense. And now if we lock down the 1, let's see what we get. So now we're going to reference the 1 in an absolute sense. Okay. And here it's saying I can press Control Enter to autofill. Okay, so that was the equivalent of dragging down there. So let's see what we're doing here. So we're saying we're taking the cell that is to the left of this one, and then we're taking the same column as this one, and we're locking down row 1. So we're taking a number in the same column that is in row 1, and then multiplied by the number that is to the left of the current cell. Okay, so you see this times this gives this, and then this times this gives this, and so on. And then if we basically apply this formula to the whole thing, then the same principle applies, that we're, for example, to get this number, we're taking the product of the number in the cell to the left of this one with the number from the same column that is in row 1. That is this times this equals this. Okay? And then this one is this times this equals this, and so on. Okay? So the question remains, how can we make a 5 by 5 multiplication table? Maybe I should just, I was going to have a larger font here. I kind of forgot to do that. Sorry about that. Okay. Right. So, and I'll just delete this. So let's go back to this and ask ourselves, okay, so if we want to get the multiplication table, a 5 by 5 multiplication table, how do we do it? Okay, well, what do we want to do? We want to multiply this by this to get this, and then this by this to get this, and this by this to get this. Okay, so for each cell, we want to take the number that is in the same row as the current cell, but from the A column, multiply that with the number from the same column that is in the first row. So that means that we want to take a number from column A every time. So we're referencing the A in an absolute sense. Okay. Maybe I will just go back to that a little bit. Right, okay. So we're referencing the A in an absolute sense. Okay. And then we want to take from the same column, that is column B, and from row 1. Okay, so now this formula should be exactly right to give us the multiplication table. So let's see. Okay. And then like that. Yeah. And the great thing about spreadsheets is that you can just, build up large tables very easily. So let's see if we can do this. So if we just take some more columns there and just resize them just to half the width. Okay. Then, and if we maybe just maybe reduce the font size back down so we can get more columns on here. Okay, so then if we highlight the cells and drag down, then it will continue the same pattern. We see that. And then if we, highlight these cells and drag across, here we're making a 12 by 12 table, and it should be possible to just build up the table just by extending the pre-existing one. Okay, so you see there we were able to start with a 5 by 5 table and then just extend it to make a 12 by 12 table. Okay, so I hope that this made some sense. So thanks for watching. Stay good.